Hi everyone, it's Leanne from the Medicine Hat Public Library, and I'm back with another cooking video. I'm just an average person in an average kitchen showing you how I cook stuff. As we all know, September is here. The leaves are turning yellow, the temperature is getting a little bit cooler, and it seems like every restaurant has pumpkin spice something on their menu. I don't know about you, but I've had a few pumpkin spice lattes already. Since I really enjoy fall, and I'm sure that some of you do too, I wanted to do something a little bit different today and bake a seasonal recipe. The library has so many great cookbooks, so if you want to try some new recipes, I totally encourage you to stop by the building one day or look online because we have lots of great ebooks as well. And you'll find cookbooks on everything. We have cookbooks on baking bread, we have how to make different international cuisines, we have 5-minute meals, and of course, we have a lot of wonderful baking books. Today I'm going to be making some pumpkin chai chocolate muffins from this book called All the Sweet Things. I love baking muffins and cookies at home because they are usually pretty quick. They're easy to make, and it's way cheaper than buying them from the store. So I hope you enjoy this video. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to tell you what we're going to be using in the recipe today. We're going to be using eggs, pumpkin puree. When you go to the store, you'll usually see two kinds. You'll see what they call pumpkin pie filling, which is pureed pumpkin with some other stuff in it, or you'll be able to find just like pure pureed pumpkin, which is what I'm using today. Fun fact, if you have cats, you can actually give them pumpkin puree to help them if they have upset stomachs. Just don't give them pumpkin pie filling because there's a lot of sugar and stuff in there that would make them sick. Brown sugar, canola oil, apple juice, pure vanilla extract, flour, quick oats. The recipe calls for large flake oats, but I couldn't find them in the grocery store, so I'm just substituting them with quick oats. They're pretty similar, but quick oats are cut smaller than large flake oats, so they cook a little bit faster. With muffins, I don't mind that because I'd rather have them be a little softer than a little more crunchy. Baking powder, baking soda, salt, ground cinnamon, ground ginger, ground cloves. See, I told you in the chili recipe video that you'd find a way to use the spices in other recipes. Nutmeg, ground cardamom, semi-sweet chocolate chips, and last but not least, pumpkin seeds. So first things first, we're going to want to preheat our oven to 350 degrees and make sure our oven rack is about in the center of the oven, so the tops and the bottoms of the muffins are going to bake pretty equally. It's time to mix our ingredients together to make our muffins. This recipe wants us to mix all the wet ingredients together first and then all the dry ingredients together first before we combine them all together. You don't need to use a stand mixer to make this recipe. But I'm going to use mine just because it will mix stuff a little bit more consistently and a little bit quicker than I could do it by hand. But if you don't have a stand mixer at home, don't worry because you can just use a whisk and a few mixing bowls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my wet ingredients in the KitchenAid mixer. I'm going to put the dry ingredients in my mixing bowl, and then we're going to put them all together. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to add are eggs. So one cool thing that you want to do if you're baking a recipe like muffins is before you put your eggs into your mixture, you want to actually break the yolks with a fork and just kind of stir them together so you combine the egg white and the egg yolk together, like this. So I am just going to start sliding it into my mixing bowl here. If you have any rubber spatulas sitting around, they are great for getting the last little bit of ingredient out of a bowl. Then we're going to add 1 cup of our pumpkin puree. Next up is a 3/4 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. When a recipe says firmly packed, they mean that every time you spoon sugar into your measuring cup, you want to just kind of press it down and pack it into something that's kind of like a Play-Doh ball. So when you turn it upside down and you put it in your mixing bowl, it's going to plop right in there and keep the shape of your measuring cup. That's how you know you have packed your brown sugar enough. Then we're going to put 1/2 cup of oil in. The recipe says you can use canola oil or whatever other cooking oil you have on hand. Next up, 1/2 cup of apple juice. I'm using the Compliments brand unsweetened apple juice. It's only about $2 for a container, and it doesn't have a lot of the sugar or additives that other apple juice cartons might have that you find in the breakfast food aisle. And we're going to pour that on in there too. The last of our ingredients is our vanilla, and we're going to be using 2 teaspoons of that. I'm using pure vanilla extract. It's more expensive than the artificial stuff that you'd find in the grocery store. There's not really a huge difference between the two, but pure vanilla extract does taste smoother and more natural, so I like to use that. I didn't quite fill up my last teaspoon, so I'm just adding a little bit more vanilla in there. I'd rather have a little more vanilla than a little less. Okay, and now that that is all done, I'm gonna start stirring the ingredients together. If you're using a bowl and a spoon, just kind of stir it together until all the ingredients are combined and it looks smooth like cake batter. On my stand mixer, I'm just gonna turn it to the first or the second mode, which is like stir. I'm just gonna turn it to a low speed and watch the mixture carefully. Sometimes my mixer doesn't quite like to get stuff that's on the sides and the bottom of the bowl. So halfway through, I like to go in with my rubber spatula again and scrape whatever stuck to the sides down to the bottom. And then I will lift the bowl up and continue to mix it. So as you can see, it looks kind of gross right now, but everything is stirred together well, pretty well, and it's combined and a little bit thick. Now that that's all combined, we are going to mix together our dry ingredients, starting with the flour. Next up is the oats. 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. In order to keep my dry ingredient measurements more precise, I use the flat edge of a butter knife just to make sure I'm not putting a little bit too much baking powder or anything else in the mixture. And then we're gonna use the baking soda. And then we're gonna add our spices. First up is salt. Then we're gonna put cinnamon in, ground ginger, ground cloves, ground nutmeg, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom. I'm probably not saying that right, but hopefully you get my drift. And then what we're gonna wanna do is we're just gonna wanna stir them around until they're all pretty much combined. You don't want to do this really quickly or you're going to have powder and flour flying around everywhere. Just use some small, even, gentle strokes. And now they're all basically combined together. The last thing we're going to add to our dry ingredients is a 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. We're going to give it one last stir to just incorporate the chocolate chips into our dried mixture before we add it to our wet mixture. Like so. Our final step to mix these all together is to add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients. This is a trick that my mom actually taught me when she was first teaching me how to cook. If you have a lot of dry ingredients that you need to mix in, you don't want to dump it in the bowl all at once. Powder is going to fly everywhere, it's not going to want to incorporate well, and it just won't be a good time. Instead, take a measuring cup and put it in 1 cup at a time. And we want to stir this mixture just until it's incorporated, and we don't want to stir it too much. And here is what our final muffin mixture looks like. It's time to get our muffins ready for the oven. You're gonna want to get a cupcake or muffin pan and get some muffin or baking cups and just stick them in there. The muffin dough is going to rise a little bit as it bakes, so you only want to fill these about 3/4 of the way full, or else they'll flow over top of your baking cup. I think I'm actually going to get a smaller spoon to make this easier. I hope that wasn't too painful to watch. As you can see, some of these are a little bit over 3/4 full, but we're gonna live dangerously today and just leave it. Before we stick them in the oven, the last thing we're gonna do is we are going to sprinkle a few pumpkin seeds on top of each muffin. Now I'm gonna stick stick these in the oven for 18 to 22 minutes, basically until the tops of the muffin springs up lightly when you touch it, and a toothpick can go through the center of the muffin and come out clean. So if you're wondering, hey, where are your adorable cats? Dunlop was on top of the cabinet watching me cook. Hey, buddy. And Coco's on top of the dining room cabinet. You guys, these turned out so good and they smell absolutely delicious. I'm gonna let these cool in the pan for 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna transfer the muffins to a wire rack and let them cool for another 10-15 minutes before I put them away. And there we have it. Pumpkin Chai Chocolate Muffins, perfect for fall. If you enjoyed this video, let us know. The library has lots of other great virtual programs and videos on our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our YouTube channel. Have a great day. Bye.